But real quick, let's introduce everyone here. So everyone, I'm Shane Scott. If this is the first podcast you're listening to, I'm one of the founders of the Pro Series, originally the Pro 406. I'm also the match director here in Billings, Montana. Let's see here. We'll go over gear after, but let's introduce everyone. So also in here we have Will Walton, who's my co-director and one of the other original founders of the Pro Series and Pro 406. And we have a couple other guys in here. They just recently joined, I would say, in the last, 2 months, 3 months? You guys are fairly new with this. They've been hosting some NRL 22 matches for a while now. I think a little over about a year. But they also now just joined the Pro Series, our first Idaho club. They're out of a town that I still refuse to believe it exists. Is it Athol? That's not a real thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like,
Athol, Idaho.
That can't be a real town name. Athol?
Yep.
Am I holding my tongue? Athol?
That's the joke.
Yeah.
Hold your tongue and say it.
Yeah, I still don't believe that. I still don't believe it.
Just north of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yes, and so we got Trevor and Wyatt. I actually don't know how to say your last names, so I'm just gonna ignore it. But so go ahead and introduce yourselves, guys, and then we'll kind of go down the list. So Wyatt.
Yeah, like Shane said, I'm Wyatt Lassiter. I started North Idaho Precision Rimfire. Just there was no precision rimfire matches or clubs in our area, so I just kind of kicked it off and been having a blast with it since. And like I said, just recently joined the P.R.O series, and here with me is Trevor Mohror, which is one of the guys that helps me out quite a bit. So,
yeah, my name is Trevor Mohror. I haven't been doing this very long, pretty much thanks to Wyatt. We all now have way too much money into 22s. But I've pretty much shot every match, started traveling with him, and just learning a ton since we kind of started this, or he started this earlier this year. And we also have Larry Vandenberg, who's been here since the beginning as well.
I forgot. Yes, Larry is there. Sorry, Larry.
Yep, I'm still over here.
Larry
just
sitting in
count.
the corner.
He's a non-person today.
So these guys actually we also have Will Walton. I guess, Will, you've been on the podcast before, but if you want to say something about yourself, go ahead and say it now.
Fat kid that likes guns. Here we go.
Hey.
So these three are part of...
One more thing. East side, bitches.
West side.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. So these three are all from NIPR, which stands for what? Northern Idaho Precision Rifle?
North Idaho Precision Rimfire. Yep.
So they joined us right when our championship match was happening. I was actually... Wyatt reached out to me and I was talking to him like literally as I was setting up for our championship match here back in June, and I was like, hey bud, I'm a little busy, but let me hit you up right after. They joined pretty much right after the Pro Series championship, so they started fresh this season. And now you guys have hosted, this is your third match in this season so far, I think.
Yep, I think so. And then we've come over and shot a couple of your guys's and just shot the Badlands Brawl as well.
Yep, so that's something we can dive into as well. So these gentlemen, all three of them, and a couple other guys came out from Idaho, and they came out and shot our normal monthly match in Billings. They didn't come out just to do that. They actually came out because the day after we're having a 2-man team 22 hunter match. It was the first one. It's kind of the test one that we're doing for the Pro Series. That's something we're kind of interested in starting, is a 2-man team kind of spin-off series. It was our beta match. We only had about 20 people, I think 10 teams, and I didn't even get to shoot it, but I think it went phenomenal. I know Wyatt and Trevor, you guys had a good time, and Larry, Wyatt and Larry actually got third place. They did phenomenal.
We cheated.
And Will actually ended up tying for first, but only lost basically because he's slow.
No, you told me not to run. You told me that would not be a factor, and you were a fucking liar.
I mean, to be fair, you crossed the finish line and almost puked. So if I did push you even farther, I think it actually would have been worse for you, to be fair. I mean, Matt was like dragging your ass to the finish line. And
whatever.
I
was
fell over and had to
Matt
take
every single stage except for the last one.
Matt also is probably like 80 pounds lighter than you, so he could be behind you and sprint past you every time.
It doesn't matter. I got there. Fat kids win. It was a win for the cupcake eaters, and you have to admit that.
It was a win. I was actually pretty impressed. You guys did really well. Yeah, so it was our first hunter match. Will end up end up getting second. They lost to Brooke and Ben Magmis, I think you say, or Mag. I think it's Magmis.
People do
Magnus,
have last names
but
that can be pronounced, though. I didn't know if you knew that.
dude, I'm terrible. Magnus, Mangus. Sorry, they crushed it. They did it in 54 minutes. Will took like an hour and 15 or some shit. They were slow, but
What are you talking
yeah,
about? We
so
did it in an hour and 6 minutes. Hour and
yeah,
6
slow,
minutes.
not fast enough. You lost.
Who was the next
You were
closest
fast?
to us? Who was the next closest? Next closest.
I think like an hour 12, hour
No,
15.
no. It was like
Yeah.
an hour and 25 or an hour, something
I
like
think
that.
Larry and I were an
No.
hour and 18, and our approach was to take it slow. We didn't ever want to get the heart rate up, and then by the time we got to the end and found out that those guys had done it in under an hour, we were like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my partner ran it in, I think, in 107 or 108.
I was gonna say you guys were. I could have swore there was a group that was just as fast as you guys will.
Yeah, we were sub 110 for sure.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. So you push it and you can, lose impacts. The time isn't a huge factor of it. So to people listening, how we ran this match was kind of a unique format. We decided to do basically like tea time starts. So we had an 8 o'clock start time, then at 8:30, so on and so forth, every 30 minutes. And a team would start from the starting line. They would walk to stage one, and their time would start as soon as they crossed the starting line, and then it would end when they finish get across the finish line. And impacts counted as points, and your overall time counted as points. Now, overall time was very minuscule. It was not. I think the difference between Will, who got tied for first, and the first place team, I think was like maybe 2.5 impacts. So that extra, 10 plus minutes, 15 minutes gave them 2 impacts, which adds up. But taking your time and going slow and getting more impacts would have won. Larry and Wyatt, they had a stage where they couldn't see what was it, the bear. You guys couldn't see the bear on one stage.
That we still talk about that bear to this day. I hate that bear.
that bear cost. If you guys would have hit that bear, it was an easy 6 points.
Correct, and we lost by 3 points, and the bear was 6 points.
Yeah, so you guys could have essentially won the whole thing if you guys just hit one target, and you guys took a lot longer than everyone else. So it was a really cool format. I don't know if that's the way everyone should have to do it. I think we're open to letting match directors choose how they want to run a match. But I think, at least from my opinion, I thought it ran pretty smooth. I know Will, I didn't get to shoot it. So Wyatt, Trevor, Will, Larry, what were kind of your thoughts on that style or format?
I thought it ran really, really smooth. All the ROs did an incredible job. And we talk about that match every time we're together. It was that much fun. Like, it's the most fun that any of us have had at a match.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is just not doing a hunter match before. We kind of didn't know what to expect, and with you guys running your first one, it kind of set a good bar of how smooth it went, how well everybody did, but then the fun factor of it like completely changed the way that we kind of looked at doing rimfire. It's just a whole nother animal.
Yeah, so I ran. This match was supposed to happen, I think, back in April or May, and we had a heavy rainstorm that hit, and we thought we were still going to do it, and we actually headed out to the range, and in town in Billings, it was fine, just rained all day. It was, the ground was wet, but sun was out. But when we got to the range, it was like slush snow, about probably 6 inches to a foot of slush snow. So we ended up having to cancel this match, but I actually got to run it a week before I was going to be an RO. So I got to run it a week before and test it out. And me and my buddy Phil ran it, and it was a blast. I've never had that much fun ever at a match before. Something about a team aspect is just such a good time. It's not, it kind of takes away from you just mentally like thinking you have to do everything, where like when you're with a teammate, now you have to help them. It becomes this thing where like someone's telling out range, where you're getting data, or someone's spotting the target for you and calling your impacts and misses, or telling you where to change your wind call to. It's something about that is just I think a blast, and I would definitely love to shoot some more and actually get the opportunity to shoot some and not just host them. But I think it was a blast.
Hey,
And
Wyatt, let me ask you this. What was you and Larry's workflow process pretty much every stage?
Yeah, so Will got a firsthand look at it because he was an RO the day that we shot it. And we actually got complimented by a few of the ROs on our workflow. And we, all to put it all out there, we went out and practiced this. Like we wanted to be really prepared for it. We went out and practiced deploying tripods, on the clock, getting on glass as fast as we could, getting ranges as quickly as we could. We really concentrated on having our dope and our arm boards and everything, and our wind calls and whatnot. And our workflow always was me shooting first was the intent. We didn't know that you guys were going to flip flop and tell us who had to shoot first, so that actually kind of caught us off guard. But I did love that aspect of it. We'll get more into that later. But our workflow was I would shoot first. Larry's always been better at finding and ranging targets than I am, so the idea was he would find them, throw out ranges to me. I'm really fast at dialing and engaging. I would get those out of the way as quickly as I could. I'm better at wind calls and wind corrections. So during my shooting, I would figure out the wind corrections. Larry would jump on targets. I would give him wind corrections, and we just went from there. And it worked incredible. We really worked so good as a team. I was actually really blown away. We do a ton of shooting together, and I still was really surprised at how well we work together.
That's something that's very important in these team hunter matches or team matches in general, or any type of team matches, is the teamwork aspect of it. I mean, I remember when I shot my first stage when I ran it with Phil and we butchered it. I mean, we never practiced. I've never shot a team match ever. So we shot the first stage and we just did terrible. I mean, timed out. I mean, it was super difficult. And then I got to watch Trevor. Trevor, a lot of people have heard him brought up on the podcast. He's basically kind of the new co-director. He's kind of taken Will's spot of actual match directing. He does. Trevor Cunningham is a huge help to us and has been nothing but awesome to work with and deal with. And he loves the sport. But his whole idea, this was his idea to start this whole hunter match thing. And so when he ran, he got to run the stage. I watched him and his partner Brett shoot it, and they just full on communicated, crushed it. One person was building a position off a tripod while the other one was getting his gear, and then he would put his gear down on the tripod, and while the other one started to get binos to call impacts. I mean, everything just worked so smooth, and I learned so much after that. Watching them shoot a stage, where the second stage, me and Phil completely changed our whole look on how to do this thing, and it started to run a lot more smooth, and it's awesome. I mean, it's such a cool experience to do a team match, and I really hope that we get this whole 2-man team thing rolling, and it gets better and better. But it was really cool to watch, like, even Will and Matt, they got to shoot the day before, watching them work together, because you get some guys who will come up to a stage and they'll see a target, they'll range the target, get their dope, get their rifle, take their shot. Okay, your turn. And never tell their partner range, never told the partner what their dope is to compare, didn't call wind calls, nothing. And it's if you're doing a team match, that's such a good, if you hit and you see you're going 0.2 to the right, tell that to your teammate, so they know to make that correction. And just seeing some teams be really good at communicating. I watched you guys shoot Wyatt, and I got to watch you guys on the stage, and you guys communicated super well. And then watching other groups just no idea, or have no idea what they're doing. It was really cool to see the different level of communication between the teams. It was really cool to watch.
Well, honestly, if people had just watched one of the NRL Hunter videos that have been put out, it would change the way they approached it completely, because that was really what we based it off. We had seen a couple NRL Hunter YouTube videos, and just seeing the very basic workflow that those guys apply and just the way that they help each other and communicate, that was basically what we based our communication and workflow off, and it worked really well.
Hey, Wyatt, let me ask you, which videos did you watch? Did you watch the one where it's the husband-wife team and they kind of critiqued Phil Vallejo?
Yeah, I have watched that one. That's Long Range with the Lilies. They have some really good videos related to NRL Hunter matches. Mike Lilly actually puts on one of the matches that's really near to us here at Rock Lake. They put out really good videos. NRL themselves puts out some decent videos, but yeah, that's definitely one of the good ones to watch.
The one with the lilies I found to be the most helpful in my preparation getting ready. Simply talking about not having a yard sale.
Yeah,
Get
Mike
your
Lilly
gear
reached
up
out
in
to
front of
me.
you, so that
Yeah,
you know where your stuff is. That way you don't have to worry about it, and then kind of do the things that are important first, and then worry about the other stuff.
exactly.
That
Yep.
that helped me to match tremendously.
Yeah, Mike Lilly deserves a huge shout out because that guy is massively helpful in this industry. And I literally just posted in one of like the precision shooting groups, and he reached out to me personally and was like, "Hey, this is the workflows that I've seen work well. Here's what I've seen fail." And like that guy took half an hour out of his day to chat with me and just give me some details on what he's seen work well and what he has seen work not well, and that really was beneficial.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I was kind of interested in what other people's prep were coming into that match. I kind of want to get a little news shooter perspective here for a minute, if we can. Trevor, how many matches do you have under your belt? And since we've got Larry here too, maybe you could tell us how many you've got.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there was a period of time, like in the summer, where I missed like 2 or 3 matches. I actually had never owned my own 22 rifle. I was using the club's rental rifle and sharing rifles with people. I actually just bought my 22 rifle about 2 weeks ago, and I used it for the first time today for our own match. But altogether, I've got about 4 matches, scored matches, and then like 1 or 2 practice matches that we kind of did for like beta matches before the whole thing started for NIPR. So I'm still learning a lot, and I'm doing my best to kind of keep up with these other guys. And man, it's been a challenge, that's for sure. Being one of the newer people with the least amount of time behind a gun, for sure.
And what about you, Larry? How many do you have under your belt?
I've got probably, I don't know, I'd say 8 or 9 matches I've shot. I've kind of been with Wyatt the whole time since he started it. He's obviously gone out and shot a bunch more matches than I have, but started out base class, and then just recently I switched to open class. I just bought a Bagara, so pretty big change there. But I mean, this whole process has been a giant learning curve the whole way, and every time I go shoot, I'm still learning stuff every single day. So there's lots of improvements to be made still.
All right.
So
And this is one of the
thing to
pre-prepared
ask.
questions that I had was, what is one of the worst gear investments that you've made?
Oh, I've got an easy one. I bought a rear squeeze bag. As soon as you buy a game changer, you'll never touch a rear squeeze bag.
Nice.
I absolutely love my game changer. So that's something actually I wanted to bring up. I mean, my gear's been brought up 100 times at different podcasts, but let's kind of run through what gear you guys are all running. So we'll start with Larry. I know you just said you got a Bergara. Do you want to start with what gun you're running, what gear you're running?
Yeah, it's the Bagara B14. It's got currently an Athlon scope on it. Very basic gear, just a full-size game changer. Arca rail, bipod. I mean, all fairly simple stuff.
Wyatt?
Yeah, so I've only been shooting, I guess, now for 6 months, and I've had a huge progression of gear in that time. I guess this month was our 7th month shooting. So 7th month I've been shooting. I went from a base class Ruger Precision, as simple as it gets with an Athlon. A couple months of that, I swapped to a Bergara in an MPA BA comp chassis with a Arkin. And now, right before the Badlands Brawl, I had my gun builder put together a Rimex for me. And I'm shooting it in the same BA comp chassis, and now with a Zero Compromise ZC 527.
Oh, you did end up getting it. You did end up getting it.
Yep.
So what barrel are you running on that?
It is the Proof Prefit in the competition contour. Which
is it 26 or the?
It's
24?
It's a 20.
Oh,
yeah, and balances out perfectly in that BA comp.
You're running a 20-inch barrel
And
as
then-
well, huh?
Yep.
That's what I went.
And then Trevor, what are you running?
I just picked up a Ruger Precision. I'm still shooting in base class because I have a lot of other hobbies. But it's got a Vortex 624 on it. I believe Wyatt polished the bolt or did some work, like tuning work on it.
Worked over the trigger and the bolt and stuff in it.
But other than that, yeah, it's completely stock. Has a Meg Bowl bipod that the previous owner put on there, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it kind of gets the base job done.
Yeah, I guess we should say, so we are an NRL 22 club over here. So we do have a lot of base class shooters that, like that NRL 22 base class, and it gave them kind of a easy, cheap way to get into it. And a lot of our shooters have used that as the avenue to work their way up to open class now.
And that's actually perfect. So, I mean, that's one thing I really like about our series is, we don't tell anyone to not join the NRL or PRS. We're kind of, big believers on join whatever league you want. If you also want to be part of ours, just submit your scores. It's, we don't really have any restrictions on that. With the whole base class and open thing, as you guys know, we don't have a open or base class in the pro series. It's just skill based. So it's based off of what percentage you're shooting at your local club. But that's kind of what also got me and Will into this as well. We originally built base when we originally were an NRL club. We built base class rifles. So we had, our first, or my first was a Voodoo ACZ 455 with just Diamondback tactical, and that's standard Boyd's tactical stock. And Will, I think, had the same exact gun. Just yours was a short barrel, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like a 16-inch.
I had the short boy.
Yep, and that's what got us into it as well. And then once we got into it, and it kind of became our main hobby. That's when we started to dump a lot of money into our guns. Will, where are you running now?
So I just made some changes. I was running, like I said, when I first started out, I had a base class rifle, which was a CZ 455 with a Bushnell scope. Pretty high end shit right there. Real high end. Anyway, ran that for an incredible amount of matches. I think I did that for most of a year. And then, like you said, I decided this was my jam. And because I'm married with a family and decided that I really hate myself, I started my own small business too. I kind of have to make spending decisions at a different rate. So I went ahead and did the biggest purchase, which was to buy a Voodoo and have it custom built the way that I wanted to, and get a Bartland barrel on it, that kind of fun stuff. So it all added up pretty quick. I also ordered a lot of magazines with the gun when I got it too, because I didn't want to worry about those. So I'm running a Voodoo and an MPA BA comp chassis. And now I just purchased a new scope because everybody made fun of the fact that I had an Arkin on my Voodoo for over a year. And anyway,
if you're going all, that's the thing I've said to so many podcasts. If you're going all out, the most important thing to have, in my opinion, is good glass. And nothing wrong with Arkin. Arkin are great scopes. I mean, we have it on our loaner gun. I have an SH4 or SH4 and an EP5. They're both good scopes. But on a Voodoo, you wanna, if you spent that much money on a Voodoo.
Yeah, Shane thought it was hilarious. I showed up to the Badlands Brawl with my new Rimex build, proof barrel and my BA comp chassis and everything, and a spur mount with an Arkin in it.
Dude, you're the man.
Like, why? You guys, the glass is the most important thing out there. I literally think that if you could grab a CZ 457, just at any local store, Shields, whatever, buy that, get a nicer glass like a Strike Eagle or a Chrono. Strike Eagle is bare minimum, but like Strike Eagle, Athlon Chronos, a Vortex Gen 3, something. Again, I know those are expensive scopes. Those are $2,000 scopes, not counting Strike Eagle, but good glass has made all of the difference. I can't stress that enough with people who they'll buy a Voodoo and then run, a cheap scope on there, and I'm not running you're limiting yourself.
Now I put a Maven on there. I ran it for the first time.
Which is yep, that Maven's not a bad scope.
It does have some drawbacks though that I'm starting to run into, and I'll have more on that later. But one of the biggest ones that I'll talk about, just real quick and just touch on it, is that it does not have a way to lock out your windage. and that cost me several impacts at the hunter match, because I would stow my gear and then literally go running off to the next stage. And while you're jostling stuff around, my windage did get knocked off more than once.
Yeah, that's something I really love. I got a cert for my Vortex Gen 3, and I absolutely love it. But so if you're listening to this podcast the first time, if you haven't heard my gear, I originally started with the CZ 455 with the Diamondback Tactical. I have then swapped to a Bergara B14R in a MDT XRS chassis with a Strike Eagle, and I won an AccuTac bipod. I got a Super Cal. And I ended up, my girlfriend was running a 1022 with a kid barrel, and she was shooting great with it, but we eventually decided to get her into a bolt gun. So she kind of got my hand-me-down. She got the Bergara B14R, and now I just swapped over to a Voodoo, an MPA comp chassis like these guys. I basically have the same exact one as Wyatt. I have a Razor Gen 3 scope with a Bixen Andy trigger, same AccuTac bipod, and then a spur mount. And I have my Voodoo is I think it's a 20. I want to say it's a 20 MTU barrel, but it could be a 22. I can't remember which one I got.
I think yours is the same
I think
as
it's
mine,
20.
and is
Yeah.
a 20. I'm pretty sure. And yours is a
Yeah.
Bartlett, I believe, too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the MTU Contour is from Voodoo is a Bartline, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if you don't.
But I didn't get the 360. I just got the standard 90-degree bolt throw. But no, I just swapped to it, and I absolutely love it. It's a great gun. Nothing against the Bergara. It's still a really good gun. But just that hard kind of bolt close on the Bergara just kind of drove me up the wall. So I said, it's just money, right? I don't have any kids, so I don't have a family and responsibilities. I just buy a new gun. It's fine. But basically that's what I'm running. That's actually, sorry, another gear I'm running is for bags. Weebad, can't go wrong with a Weebad Fortune Cookie, and then I also run a Weebad pump pillow and a Game Changer. So it's pretty much all the gear I run. Do you guys use pump pillows or anything like that?
Yep. We run I run a pump pillow, and then of course I run a Schmedium Game Changer. I just, for whatever reason, I like the Schmedium a little better. And then our club is kind of crazy. Everyone just throws their bags in one giant pile, and everyone uses whatever they want. So it's kind of fun that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a.
Yeah, if you're actually.
Oh, I was just gonna say I've got the Weebad, the wax medium. It's perfect.
Yeah, if you're actually looking for any Game Changers, Jason Nedved at NPS sells a really cool Game Changer with his logo on it, but it's a whole blue. It's his Nedved Precision Blue, and is a really cool looking bag. I love it. It is the Armageddon bag, but just they made it special color for him, and it is awesome.
One thing that's absolutely on my list since Badlands Brawl was there was a tank trap stage that was only off of legs, so there was no tips and no center to be shot off of. And that was a steep tank trap, and no one's bag would stick to it. And just so happened that the squad that came up behind us, the guy had a sticky full-size Game Changer, and he threw it at me and said, "Try this. It's going to change your life." And it absolutely did. I threw that thing on that leg, didn't even pat it down, set my 20-pound gun on it, and it did not move. And it was incredible. I knew that they were good. I had heard about them, but you just never really see them out in the wild. And that absolutely changed my mind. I am ordering one immediately.
Yeah, so my thing on that stage is I ended up grabbing my Weebad and use their they have like a rubber grip on on my Fortune Cookie. I love my Game Changer, but I like my Game Changer for what it is. It's the wedge cut. I love the wedge cut, but with something that has a rubber on it, I just love my Weebad Fortune Cookie. It's just so perfect. It's more of a curved kind of half moon shape, and it just clamps on there, and it's great. I kind of want to get one of those. I've seen guys run them. So I have another bag. I have an Armageddon bag that, or no, it's not Armageddon. Oh shoot, who makes it? I have a bag essentially that goes onto an Arca plate that sits on my Arca, and it's a really cool bag. The only thing is it's not curved. And one of my other buddies, Anthony, has basically one that he kind of made. The thing weighs probably 20 pounds is ridiculous. Things filled with like lead shot. And he used it on that stage, and he had it on his ARCA and just dropped it right there on the legs on the tank trap. And that gun did not move. It just glued to that tank trap. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's no exaggeration. He tossed me that bag like, hey, check this out. And I barely caught it. The thing weighs 20 pounds for sure.
Yeah, it's insane. But that's actually another podcast that'll be coming out right after this one. I record with them in 2 days for my NRLX Badlands Brawl breakdown. I'll have Mark Pulver, Courtney Anderson, Jason Anderson, and Justin. Oh God, I always forget Justin's last name. Don't hurl the cut. Shit, Justin Carbone. There we go.
Did you
I was
go
like
and,
panicking.
Did you go and let Mark Pulver know that I zeroed a stage and was still right on his tail?
I was talking with him. We were looking at everyone's scores and stuff. I mean, I end up getting. I mean, this is something I'll talk about in the other podcast. But so I end up getting 9th. I think you end up getting what, 4th, 5th?
Yeah, 4th place. Yeah, I was basically the Midwest Precision guys went 1, 2, 3. I was right behind them in 4th.
Yep. Yeah, it was a really fun day. I felt really confident. I think I did pretty good. I was definitely tired and dehydrated by the last 2 stages. 9, 10 they were long range stages, but really weren't that difficult. And I just dropped so many points on those last 2 stages. It was bad.
That was definitely the theme of the day. Is everyone that I ran into was like, man, by the last 3 stages, I was just wasted. And I couldn't make any impacts.
That's any NRLX match you go to. They're long, which is good. You want that, lots of stages, but it's just tiring. The last 2 stages at every match. I've been to an NRLX match. There's 13 stages, and like the last 3, I was just so done and just like I can't. Because on stage 9 at the Badlands Brawl, it was my lowest score. I got a 3 out of 12, and then on stage 10. I got a 4 out of 12. So it was definitely a struggle.
Yeah, we started on stage 7, which is kind of where the more long range, larger target sizes started, and ended the day at the 1 through 6, which were definitely the more gamey stages, which I think was a better way to go at the end of the day, which I didn't expect coming into it, but. Being tired and trying to shoot those long range ones that's tough.
Yeah, I was. If I looking back at it, I mean, we started on stage 1. It was nice at the end when we were done. We were basically just done, and we were walked back. We didn't have to walk the course basically twice. But I really wish we shot stage 9 and 10 earlier in the day. The wind wasn't bad in the morning, but come in the afternoon, the wind started to pick up, and yeah, the wind got really high, and then doesn't, add on top of that, you get tired and hot. That day was supposed to be like 60 degrees, under 60, and ended up being, I think my Kestrel, the highest reading I got was almost 78, 90 or 80 degrees. I mean, it was cooking. So it was a hot day. Not enough waters were around. They had tons of water. I think too many people took them out of the ice chest that they just didn't have a chance to refill them, but just ran out of water and was just done. I was ready to call it, and I knew I wasn't going to win anything like top 3 or anything like that. So I kind of just last 2 stages, I kind of was like, all right, let's just get this over with.
Yeah.
But Badlands Brawl was a great time.
Took your time.
I had a really good time
at that point.
What?
Phoning it in at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I just called it quits basically on the last 2 stages. I started on stages 1 through 8. I started first on every single stage. I told my group, I was like, I'm going to start on every single stage today. And then I got to stage 9 and I was like, someone else should start. I'm just done. I was just so over it and tired. And it was a long day. I mean, we got up to Fort Peck. So people listening, a couple of the Billings guys, Jake, Anthony, Anthony's wife, my girlfriend Devin, me, and then the Idaho boys, Wyatt, Larry, and what was the other guy's name? Trevor didn't go.
Cliff.
Yeah, we had Cliff and also
Cliff.
Josiah and another guy with.
Yeah. So they stayed at we all rented a house up in Fort Peck, and so it was already a late night, Friday night, and then we stayed about an hour and a half from the venue, so we got to get up early, and it was a fun trip, but I was really tired. It was a very tiring trip. So
Yeah, we had a similar experience. I mean, with like 4 stages left, I really just had to walk back to the truck, eat some food, regroup, drink a bottle of water because I was just done. Same like you were saying, I was just ready to call it. So I really had to regroup and recenter myself. That was tough. I've never really, had to do that before, and kind of.
was that your first NRLX match?
Yeah. Yep. It was. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to Mark, and this will be on the other podcast as well. But he was talking with the other guys, the Minnesota guys, and what they do to prep for a match. I mean, they get good sleep, drink lots of water the couple of weeks before.
Yeah, we go to the bar.
Yeah, we were at the bar, we were drinking. I mean, we're little hoodlums.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, just different ways of thinking of it or doing it. But I mean, you can tell it makes a difference. I mean, look at who got first to third.
Yeah.
The whole Minnesota crew.
Yeah.
Who got top lady?
That's
Courtney,
a
Minnesota
good point
crew.
to make. Is that we go into it, our group knowing that we're probably not going to come away with a win, but we are going to have fun. Like that. That is our whole core belief. If we're not having fun, we're not going. So,
I wouldn't mind talking about that for a minute too.
People keep telling me like, "Hey, you've kind of got it. You should probably like take it a little more seriously." I'm still not going to. Like, I'm in this to have fun, man.
I'm absolutely in that same boat. I mean, we were at a match. I'm not going to say who it was or what it was, but let's just say it was an important match. And I think the difference between the way that we approach it versus the way some people approach it, it was after a stage, and I had asked a guy, I had already shot, he had already shot. I just asked him what his win call was, and he refused to give me a win call. He just wouldn't even tell me, and I thought, that is the exact kind of competitor and the exact kind of competition that I don't want to be around.
At that X match, if a squad caught up to us, I would start BSing with them, and I'd say, "Hey, by the way, here's what we were holding, and here's kind of what we saw," and they would look at me bewildered that I was willing to share any kind of info, and I was like, "Well, I guess we approach this a little differently than some of these people do."
Yeah, I absolutely think so, and I think that's one of the things that the Pro Series is kind of nice about is that we don't have to be real uptight about that kind of stuff, and I think that makes all the difference. And especially, I mean, Larry and Trevor, how do you guys feel about it when, say, you guys have a little experience with that NRL type stuff versus what we do? Maybe you could speak to
that. Yeah, so I think the big thing, kind of like what Wyatt was saying, was that we kind of approach everything as like we do shooting to be around our friends and to have fun. So we're going to take that anywhere we go. Like me, Josiah, and Wyatt, we headed down to a Black Hammer match in Oregon, in Milton Freewater, I think is where it's at. And we got squatted together, and we had fun with it. We're here to help each other be better shooters. We're not trying to outperform each other, although, we like the banter afterwards of, giving each other shit, saying like, you zeroed a stage or you missed an easy target or something like that. But we go into every single one of these matches, whether it's our local one, your guys' P.R.O matches in Billings, to help each other, to have the most fun, because when it's all over with, we're still friends. We want to go have a beer. We want to talk about it. We want to know what we could have done better, what we did good on, how we can go into the next match and be better as a group of shooters rather than just one shooter be the best and not help everybody out. And it's kind of like pretty much since NIPR started, Larry and I, when we were shooting base class, would go back and forth pretty much every single match within a couple points of each other. And that just made it the most amount of fun. But, he'll tell me exactly what he did on a stage, and I'll tell him what I did on a stage. And we're not going to withhold that type of information, because that just doesn't make it fun. That's not what we're about.
Yeah, I tend to. So with the whole win call thing, I mean, I have no problem ever sharing information with someone. I just always, personally, I don't like to share my win call with someone until after they're done shooting, and it's not as a competitive advantage. It's more of I don't want to be responsible for someone make like my mistake. I've made that mistake in an NRLX match before where I thought the win was completely different and have given that call to someone and ended up costing them the win. And so I've kind of made a point now where I'll give it to someone if they really want to know what I did, but I always say, hey, you know, this is with a grain of salt. Do what you're gonna do, because after that happened to me, I felt so bad costing someone a first place finish that I guess my reasoning is different. It's not because I'm trying to do better than someone. I just don't want to be responsible for someone, missing out because of me.
Yeah, and that's totally
No, yeah. I guess what I was trying to say is that like after a stage and you're basically
your situation
like,
was completely different.
you know
Yes,
what I mean? Like the competitiveness, like I'm all about like being competitive, but I think that it has to be done with an eye toward growth, and I mean group growth.
Well, if you listen to the podcast from the Pro Series finale, that was a really good thing that Anthony said. He goes, it's kind of funny the first couple stages, everyone in the group, because how we did our championship this year was we did squatting based off of where you placed throughout the year, like how well you did. So if you're an A-class shooter, you're randomly selected with all the A-class guys, and basically based off of how well you shot throughout the year, like first place wins and stuff like that. So Anthony was in the squad with Mark Pulver, Mark Flottmeyer, Nicholas Gebhardt, and all those guys. And he said like the first two stages, no one said a word to each other until finally Mark missed. And then they're like, oh, so Mark can miss. And then they all kind of like then broke into like more like talking and bullshit and having a good time. Yeah, it was kind of one of those things where like they took it super serious for a few stages. And I get it, there is guys who are out there to win, but I'm definitely, I'm out there to have a good time and have, enjoy myself and get other people into this and shooting. And, there's been so many times we've had guys come out and be like, hey, I'm just going to watch. I'm like, no, get over here. Try my gun. Get behind the rifle. Just take your time. I mean, that's how we got Matt, Greenfield, your partner, Will. That's how he got into this. He showed up to watch a match. And I was like, hey, come grab my gun. He's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, just shoot a stage. And then he ended up shooting the whole day and like that actually pretty well. He's like, oh shit. And then he went, home and got his actual gun and then came out the next month. And he's been out pretty much a lot ever since. So, and he's improved big time.
Yeah, exactly.
On a side note, if I ever hear you say P.R.O. again, Trevor, I swear to God, it's pro. It's pro, not P.R.O.
Why do
you say it all the time, and I'm like,
why do you have periods between them?
Because it stands for Precision Rimfire Outlaws.
So it's an acronym. So it's P.R.O.
Oh my God. Nope, that's why your guys is NIPR.
The dude does have
it is NIPR. Yeah.
Yeah,
nailed
it's
it.
NIPR, and we are pro. There we go. We were sitting at the Diamond when you were here in Billings, and you're talking about when we joined the P.R.O, and I'm sitting there like, God damn it! And even Devin was like, why is he saying it like that? And I'm like, I don't know. He does. It's called the Pro Series.
I'm pretty
P.R.O.
sure the first time Wyatt told me that we were switching to the Pro Series, he said P.R.O. because that's that's what it says is P.R.O. And so I just adopted it.
Fair enough, man.
Hey, we're from North Idaho, bud. You got, we got small schools. You got to give us a break.
I'm pretty sure we're 48th in the country for learnings and stuff.
Learnings and stuff, edumacations. No, I mean, to be fair, P.R.O. isn't the end of the world. I mean, there is a PRS Pro series. There's actually stands for pro, like it is. They are professional shooters, or ours is an acronym. But so I guess fine, you can say that. But I say like our Pro Series finale, this, and then all of a sudden you keep going P.R.O. I'm like, God damn it, Trevor! just guys. I literally will say Trevor, it to your face and you continue to go.
Trevor, I want to get it back to you for just a minute because you and Larry are kind of the new guys. I wanted to ask this question. What is the biggest hurdle to your personal performance that you need to fix to be more effective on a stage?
Honestly, it's transitioning. Especially a stage that has maybe 5 obstacles or maybe it's just 2 obstacles that, it's a shot apiece and you're constantly going back and forth. And we kind of just dealt with this today on one of the stages where It was a stack of cinder blocks. It was 2 cinder blocks, and then you'd transition to a single cinder block, but it would be 1 shot each, alternating for 10 total shots. And I kept seeing people time out on it, and it's definitely something to where even just a little bit of practice, knowing the stage ahead of time, just to get down whether you're going to kneel it, if you're going to prone it, what bag you're going to use, how you're going to set your rifle down. Are you going to dial? Are you going to hold over? Transitions are like the biggest thing that could eat time, or you can save time. And it's just, I don't spend enough time doing it. I have so many hobbies that, and I have a lot of excuses as well too, to where, I just don't spend enough time doing the little things that I know would get me some extra points. Um, but I don't know if that makes it more fun or frustrating when it actually comes time to shooting.
Larry said the same thing to me today. He said, I have to work on my transitioning. That's what almost all of my new shooters always are like, how do you transition so smoothly? And I remember when I got into this, a couple of our really good shooters that started with us, we have a guy that's PD and a sniper, and he's incredible to watch shoot. And his transitions, when I first got into this, I was blown away. I'm like, he looks like he's just gliding around doing these transitions, and it blew me away. And now I just find myself doing the same thing, and it's incredible to watch. Like that is almost always the thing that holds people back is their transitions. And I love watching these guys. One of my favorite things as a match director to do is watch these guys and see where they could learn a few things and then help them kind of see it. And like today, for instance, on that stage that Trevor was talking about, the guys were struggling moving their bag position to position. So what I saw our top shooters doing, they saw that, identified it, and just did an attached bag. Problem solved. And I didn't see any of the other guys do that. So, that was like a perfect learning experience right there.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I definitely had started or struggled with at the beginning was time management and transitioning. And especially with the more I've shot, I don't think really most matches I go to now, I don't time out anymore. I will, get now hitting and impacts is a whole different ball game, but time management, I don't ever feel that I'm really rushed anymore. I finish with time. I transition well. I can build a position really well. That's something that ever since we moved our program from Yellowstone to Blue Creek. That has made a huge difference shooting with Trevor and having Trevor design courses of fire that really push position building and transitioning, and time management. It's definitely, I think, improved me or helped me improve as a shooter. But yeah, it's really cool to see, especially like newer shooters, watching them learn and improve on their skills and fine tune things. A good example would be Dan. He's a billing shooter, and just watching him get his gun to where he wants it to be, and now refining the skills to utilize that gun and push as much as he can out of that gun. It is really cool to watch.
You know what?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was just going to say one of the things that that really helped when we were practicing for the hunter match that you guys put on. Wyatt had a good idea. He bought a little tripod for his phone, and we just started videotaping ourselves, like filming ourselves running through the drill, the full 4-minute drill. At first it was kind of weird. I didn't quite see what we would gain from it, but then he posted them up on YouTube, and I probably watched it over a dozen times of myself, seeing where I was cumbersome, where I lacked in being fluid with putting a tripod down or at least pulling it out of my bag. Was I making unnecessary movements? Not that we do that very much for our normal matches, but it helped so much being able to identify what I was doing wrong. And I think it helped all 4 of us.
Yeah, that's definitely a big help, any of that kind of stuff. We had a practice night when we were still over at Yellowstone Rifle Club. That had to have been well over a year ago.
Yeah, almost a year and a half. Yeah.
I learned more in that probably hour and a half, 2 hours than, because to this day, I still struggle a little bit on the clock. I've gotten 100 times better. but I still find myself rushing just a little bit, just like everybody else. But when I watched the way that Trevor would approach a stage, it was broken down into small segments. And one of the first things that he started with was essentially just walking. How are you going to get from point A to point B? And when you get to point B, what the hell are you going to do? And the way that he would set it up is that, you would walk to whatever prop that you were going to be getting on, and you would make sure that your body was aligned before you did anything with your bag or your gun. And that helped me more than anything else, especially when it came time to finding targets. Because most of us put our magnification somewhere between, I don't know, I'm going to guess 10 and 20. I think my happy spot's somewhere around 12. And a lot of times I'll forget to back that out. So you got kind of a narrow field of view. But if you come up and do everything the way that he kind of taught us, you're able to find those targets so much faster. And that immediately started saving me so much time. But it was seeing what I was doing wrong and then having somebody break it down that knew a hell of a lot better than me. So I'm just kind of curious with the other things that you're kind of on the struggle bus with right now. Because it's good to talk about that with people that may be listening to this for the first time. Absolutely filming yourself is great, but finding somebody that really knows what they're doing and just do what they do for a little bit was really helpful.
Yeah, we did something really similar. Like I said, our guy that's a PD and longtime precision rifle shooter, he just said, hey, I can see that a lot of these guys have really good skill, but they need some of the fundamentals. Like, let me put on a little seminar, and whoever wants to come, great, and I'll help them out. And oh my gosh, we spent an hour and a half with this guy maybe, and all of the newer shooters came into the next match just nuts swinging. Like they were on top of the world. They learned so much, and they all picked up, 30, 40 points, 3-4 impacts just from spending an hour and a half with a guy that knows what he's talking about, just about fundamentals.
Yeah,
getting clean trigger breaks, building positions, just how to properly get behind a rifle. And you see some guys that are coming over from especially the 22 world, coming over from silhouette shooting where it's offhand, and you get sideways and you kind of plink up your arm, and it's a lot of that stuff doesn't really carry over to what we're doing. And it's really interesting to see guys with bad habits and who's been shooting their whole lives and who've developed bad habits, and now they have to break those habits. I feel like I'm kind of a really good test case for this, because I didn't start shooting in general, never touched a gun until it's probably been 3 years now, maybe a little bit longer.
More than that. It was about 2007. It was when I quit the railroad, 2017, somewhere in there. No, a little bit before.
Yeah, but that I count that a little different, because that was more of we would go out in a field and you hand me a pistol and I shot a little stuffed animal Mickey Mouse in the face. They're a little different than but that was the first time I ever shot a gun. That was here's a gun, shoot shit. And I was first time ever touching a gun would probably be 2018, 40 years ago.
You also voted for Hillary too, didn't you?
Oh God!
At least 3 times.
At least 3 times.
He's a Democrat.
Well, yeah,
he's a Democrat. He gets to vote more than the rest.
God, yeah, be jealous, I guess. Listen, they're closer to the freaking West than we are. Don't put me in with those Westerners.
So it's super interesting. We come from the land of hard-headed hunters, right? And all these guys came into this. We had multiple guys that came into it thinking that they knew how to shoot, and they were gonna, teach us something by coming in and whooping our asses because they're good hunters. And they're the guys that have had to be the most humble and realize that they know nothing, and everything that their dad told them when they were 10 was completely wrong. They needed to relearn all the fundamentals.
Yep. It's funny how me and Shane have seen that same thing. We came from Yellowstone Rifle Club, which is literally run by that guy. Yeah. That guy times about 5. And those were the people that we had to deal with when we first started. And then after a while, they were like, if you guys want to learn how to shoot, just go find the P.R.O boys and do whatever they do. And that was pretty interesting. The other thing that I find pretty funny, I got Shane to kind of tip his toe into center fire this year. And I've gone to quite a few different center fire matches.
And I fucking crushed it. Thank you very much.
You did.
Fucking get stomped.
But what I thought was hilarious is that we would see these guys consistently on stage after stage, because I RO'd a match too this year. And you could see these guys over and over again that spend a lot of money on a center fire match is what, 4 times as expensive, 5 times as expensive, 10 times as expensive.
The match is over double, and then you have to wait. I mean, cost of a round is way more. I mean, yeah. So actually, it's pretty interesting what Will's talking about. So I shot a match, my first ever center fire match, the Big Scout Buckle Blast. I borrowed Will's wife's hunting rifle. It's a good gun for hunting, not a good gun for competitions. I'm sorry, Will, that barrel's too thin.
Well, yeah, I know.
Shot. Well, I'm the one who had to shoot it. Anyways, yeah, exactly. I did terrible. I think I got like a 60%. Still beat Will, still beat Nick. After all them talking shit. Then I said, you know what? I'm better than this. So I borrowed a buddy, Mark Pulver's Tika, and he has a competition barrel on it, proof pre-fit. Took that gun out, threw my Razor Gen 3 on there, ended up getting like 92% or 93%. I think I was like 4th place overall, and just absolutely crushed it. And it's really funny. So actually I shot with some of the same guys at both of the matches, and the very first match, they're like, so, I'm like, hey, I've never shot a centerfire match, but I've shot tons of 22 matches. I'm a perfect test subject. I want to see what the difference is. And I shoot my very first stage, and I talked to one of the guys, and he goes, so what's the big difference? And I go, there's recoil. Because there was a lot more kick with a 6.5 than there is a 22. Just being able to stay behind the rifle was a whole different ball.
We had a whole discussion about that tonight at, we went out for a few beers after our monthly match today, and we had a discussion about that I just kicked off my build for my centerfire gun to start shooting some PRS matches. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because all I've ever known is just free recoiling my rimfire gun.
Yep.
So this is going to be a big...
You learn really quick after the first shot. You're like,
I grew up hunting and everything and shooting large bore rifles and centerfire, but, I've just basically now for 7 months straight shot nothing but rimfire and free recoiling to the max. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting transition.
Yeah.
That was something that was huge.
Funny. Yeah, it's interesting, because I came from, like, my background is mainly in like reloading and doing that kind of fun stuff, all centerfire based. I jumped into the 22 thing, kind of on a lark, and I brought Shane with me, and then he kind of has taken me the rest of the way. But it's interesting to see the guys that do the 22 thing first, and then they go over and they do the centerfire thing. In my humble opinion, perform 1,000 times better than the guys that just try to dip their toe right into centerfire. You get so much more experience with that.
I think it's a lot to do with position building. Sure. It's a lot to do with position building, in my opinion. It's time management and position building, and the fundamentals of the gun. I mean, good clean trigger pull, positioning. That's all from the 22 side. And as soon as you get, basically really the only big difference to me in the centerfire world is, I think it's easy. I think it's a little easier than 22 in my opinion, because the fact that weather affects the bullet a lot less than a 22. You can see your trace a lot easier, in my opinion, with a centerfire rifle. I mean, a million times easier. The only negative and the harder part about it is recoil control. Other than that, really, I mean, I think 22s, I mean, a lot of people put 22 as like, oh, it's the kid sport or it's the baby brother to the centerfire world. And I think it's a lot harder. I mean, you have a lot less room for error, in my opinion, besides recoil control. I mean, like I know I was talking with Wyatt and the Idaho guys after, one of the stages at the Badlands Brawl, and there was a nasty little updraft on a stage that was pushing 2/10, 3/10 high. Yeah. And you don't really get that. I mean, you do get it, but it's not as much of an effect with a centerfire rifle. I mean, You're shooting a laser beam compared to this, a mortar with a 22. So it's really cool to see the difference. I really wish these big organizations kind of looked at, the 22 as something legit. And I feel like a lot of these big organizations are putting the 22 in the back burner because they can make more money with centerfire stuff. And that's something that's kind of always rubbed me wrong with some of these big organizations. And that's why with us at the, at the Pro Series and stuff, I really like that, we want entry-level shooters to come into this, learn the fundamentals, and then you can go on to centerfire if you want or do what you want. But we're not here to rack in the dough, and we're not here to just put 22 on the back burner and start up a different program and be like, oh, well, 22 is not really, going to make us money, and it's not really that popular, so we're just not going to focus on it. Because you definitely see that with some of the bigger organizations, and some of them have started to put more effort into the 22 side, but
No, that's a really,
just
I hadn't thought about that, Shane. That's a really good point. I wouldn't even be considering stepping into Centerfire PRS without Rimfire, because I'm completely new to all this, and I would never just show up at a PRS match. It's super intimidating for someone that doesn't live in that world. And, but now that I've been involved with NRL 22 and Rimfire, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to jump right into it and show up at a match. I have all the confidence of being to a bunch of matches and national matches and things. And without that, I would probably never even consider going to a Centerfire PRS match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that the correct way to approach this, and I come from a hunter education background, and a firearm instructor background, and I've found that by far this has been the best educational tool that I could have ever put into anybody's workspace. Once you understand the fundamentals of what's happening with a 22 round, after that, it's pretty damned easy with anything else.
Yeah, and I will go out to just learning the basics. Taking some of my guys out and just, hey, we're just gonna learn mills today. I'm just gonna teach you this aspect, and we'll go out there and throw a whole bunch of rounds down range learning, where you can't just go do that in Centerfire. You're just gonna go broke trying to do that kind of stuff. Where you can go out there and send rounds down range all day learning with Rimfire.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be the good stuff. Just whatever you can get your hands on.
Learning while shooting is a lot easier and a lot more fun than just trying to learn it on paper. That's for sure.
It's the same starting at base class and then going to open. I'm sure Wyatt and Larry both learned so much shooting a base class gun, because you get to the point where you're sort of out shooting the gun. And then also, we have people around here that kind of talk you into building a really expensive rifle. So that doesn't help. But
thanks, Wyatt.
You find that it's true though. I mean, you find that your fundamentals are way more critical when you're pulling a 2.5 pound trigger on a 6 pound gun versus a 8 ounce trigger on a 17 pound gun.
Yeah, you can definitely build some bad habits fast with that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So a question I had for you guys is, what is your thoughts so far? You guys only been with the Pro Series now for 3 months. What are your thoughts? I mean, what are you guys looking forward to? I mean, I'm assuming the championship, but I mean, since joining the Pro Series, what are you guys kind of looking forward to, or what's also, in your opinion, the benefit of joining the Pro Series?
I mean, I know I speak for all of our guys when I say that, for one, we were looking for somewhere that felt like home, right? So NRL 22, it does a lot of really good things, but it in a lot of ways, the championship and things just feels unattainable. It's often, East Coast. It's somewhere I'd have to fly to. That's really just not ever going to be in the books for me or any of the guys that shoot at my match or at my club. So, and then like-minded guys, within 5 minutes of showing up at your match, we all knew that we're like, oh, this is where we belong. These guys are just like us. They have the same, ideas and everything that we do. And I think just the attainability, like I said, is really just the main thing. It's the championship is within driving distance of us. It's going to be every single year. You could be at the farthest club from us and it's still going to be within driving distance. I know, Shane, that's one thing that you really made a point of, is you don't want it to get too big and spread too far, because it takes that away from it. And we all really agree with that.
That's one big thing that, we've had guys reach out from other states at this time. I mean, we originally started this thing in just Montana, and it took quite a bit of talking to get it to go anywhere else. We kind of then agreed to go only to single area code places, so like Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming. Idaho kind of counts. You guys just kind of have 2 area codes now, but we might have to just chop you guys off now.
Hey, you guys can just absorb us into Montana. No one's going to complain. If you guys just take North Idaho, we'll be happy.
But I mean, we've had some other guys reached out from Utah and Colorado, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I know Mark has talked. He lives in Wisconsin and Minnesota area, and he's kind of talked about the same thing of like, well, what if we get a club here? And that's just something I don't think would be interested in. the whole point of this series originally was to bring like local competition to Montana, where we could have a whole series in the state of Montana and be able to travel realistically to these locations. Now with the whole pro series, I mean, like you said, the farthest point, from you guys to far South Dakota, it's a trek, but it's still doable compared to, all right, you guys have to now drive to West Virginia or Georgia or, North Carolina, where the championship NRL is going to be. And you'll have a lot more guys to come to these championship matches because of that, at least locally. If we turn it into an NRL, I guess you still get a lot of people because there will be one or two guys from each club who'll be willing to fly across the country, which I probably will next year for the NRL anyways, to go to North Carolina. That's going to be a really fun match that Chris Simmons is going to put on. But you're right. You're not going to have as many guys locally that are going to be willing to do that. So that's kind of why we started this thing. And, our championship was, I think, incredible this year. We had up in Lewistown. We gave away tons of prizes, 2 full custom gun builds, 1 to a youth of the year and 1 to an adult of the year. And, I think it just lets these guys, especially in these smaller states, have a chance to compete and win regionally, but get a national level match or national feeling match under their belt, which is really cool. And not a lot of these guys have the opportunity to do that. Like, I know the Badlands Brawl for you guys was your first NRLX match. There really isn't many near you guys. I mean, I guess there's the one in Northern Washington, but that's basically Canada. All right, let's be honest.
Yeah,
that's Canada.
It's not a whole lot less of a drive than the Badlands Brawl was.
Yeah.
No.
So
that's the other thing too, is I think they, especially with all the work that Shane has done, we've been able to attract a lot of really good sponsors. We've had a lot of people from the industry come out that were maybe skeptical, and then they would see a match that we would put on, and then they jumped right in behind us. ZCO was one of them that came out. I'm trying to remember what that gentleman's name.
Nicholas Gebhardt.
Yeah, Nick Gebhardt. And we've been really fortunate that way, that we've had that kind of growth, and we're able to basically pony up one heck of a prize table for a championship match. And I think that's been, it's not all about that, but having the sponsors recognize you and step in and say, hey, we like the direction that these guys are going in, has been really, really good. And I think that, Shane is definitely afraid of growing bigger. I have less fear.
Not afraid. You know my reasoning on it. It's not the
understand.
fear of growing too big.
I guess I have less fear of that because, at least in my opinion, and I'm only one of the people that matters, is that I think that we can keep that regional aspect, and I want to grow that even stronger. Like, my big thing when we bring in a club is that I want to see them bring in another club. So I guess that's what I'm telling you guys over in Idaho, is find another club. Let's bring some more to the table. You know what I mean? Like, I want to push it and I want to grow it because I feel like we're growing a group of competitors. A group of people that are going to be able to, be better just in general at everything that has to do with marksmanship. And that's kind of where I want to see everything kind of go myself. To that end, since I didn't get to see a lot of the interaction, I know on the Pro Series website, it got out to quite a few people, but I'd love your guys' thoughts on what I'm thinking about doing with some of the 2-gun action challenge stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that we've.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
Yeah, I don't even know that we've really gotten any info
sport
on it.
Yeah, I saw the post.
Did you guys watch any of the video or anything like that about how those guys are going about those matches?
I didn't even see it.
No, I didn't. I saw your post, but I don't remember there being video links.
There's a YouTube link underneath it. There's a YouTube link under it. It's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different discipline. There's nothing wrong with it. It is cool that some guys are trying to do essentially what they did with the 22 stuff with precision rifle, trying to do the same thing what they're doing now with like 2-gun and 3-gun, but put it into a 22 world where you can do it for a lot cheaper. Quote unquote cheaper. I mean, we all dump a lot of money into these things, but no, brutality matches are definitely something to be really interesting. I don't know if we would, how that would work with the Pro Series, or if we would do something like that. That might be something different, but it definitely would be I would definitely want to shoot it and just see how it works. But going back to like the whole Pro Series stuff, it's really cool to see, like Will was saying, that sponsors are taking us serious now. Especially like I travel to a lot of NRLX matches and bump into different reps and sponsors at matches. It's really cool to see all that. We ran into the Arkin rep at the Badlands Brawl, which is cool to see him and put a face to a name and or name to a face. And but yeah, I definitely wish we had more clubs in Idaho. I definitely wish we had some clubs in North Dakota. But other than and maybe some more in Southern Wyoming, I know Casper and Cheyenne might have some clubs. But other than that, I mean, if we start getting clubs like in Minnesota or Wisconsin, Nebraska, I mean, that's starting to put pressure on the clubs at the far ends where, that's a trek. You really can't hit, all of the matches. And then at that point, we're starting to become a national organization. And, then at that point, you got to start, even though some of these things are for non-for-profit, you kind of have to start taking this as, it's a full-time job at this point, and you have to start doing it for the money. And that's something I just don't think any of us are really interested in doing at this time. I mean, with the Pro Series Championship this year, I think we walked away profit with $800, and like 250, 300 of it went to the website. We bought one of the clubs that has been with us for quite a long time up in Great Falls, Montana, but have never had tablets. We bought their whole club tablets, and that's something we're kind of looking to do each year. If a club is struggling and doesn't have tablets, that's kind of our goal, maybe with the profits from the championship every year, go ahead and buy some clubs tablets. So we did that with some of the money, and then the rest of the money we actually donated to a match that Eric Miller puts on. He was one of our sponsors. He does a match every year for a charity for the I think it's Montana Special Olympics. So we donated like $200. We paid for every single youth shooter's entry fee, and he donates all that money to the their charity. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I literally think I walked away with like $35, $25. So we're not doing this for the money.
No, and that's never where I want to see this go. Like, I don't want anybody to think that like my desire to see the sport grow under what we're doing would be anything like that. I 100%. If I got to looking at how much money I've put into this thing just to get it going, I mean, it's a lot, and I would never do this as a business, and I would never want to see it go that way. I think that's where a lot of the other organizations have kind of shot themselves in the foot, is that they lost the love for it. And I think that that's what's more important than anything else, is the enthusiasm of the group.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, what we're doing at this point, it's kind of similar to what the Mars League started. They're doing it for the same exact reasons that we are. We're trying to bring local competition to our areas and not about the money. And I think that's what these big organizations have kind of lost track of, is they're just doing it for the money. And again, it's not like you can't do it for the money. But with all the leftover money you guys have, I don't think it's, fair to just stuff your pockets. I think it's better to put it back into it. I mean, I guess that's just how any business, in my opinion, should be. But at the end of the day, we all have to survive, and we all have to make money. So I guess I kind of understand from that point of view. But
yeah, that's one of the inside jokes like that we have all had as match directors, is like, yep, raking in the dough, making some.
Oh yeah, we've talked about.
People truly believe that,
Yeah.
And the reality is that I'm well into the 4 figures, approaching 5 figures into this thing, just to make sure that people around me have a place to do this, and have something to enjoy, and have an outlet and a place to go and enjoy affordable precision shooting if they want.
Wyatt bought a Ferrari with our entry fees.
Yeah.
Working on my second. That was the joke that me and Wyatt had, is like, we're just racking in the fucking dough from this stuff, man. I mean, I used to keep a very detailed record of every dollar we spent and gave for match fees and trophies and yada yada. I gave up in 2021, and at that time, I'm looking at it right here. I was $1,090 in the hole, and we total spent about $5,635. Now, obviously, we brought in money, but yeah, we were $1,000, that $1,090 in the hole. after doing this for a year and a half. So I gave up at that point. It was kind of depressing looking at how much money I've dumped it back into the club.
I honestly
And
wonder
it's
some
cool.
of these clubs, I wonder how they even do it, because I have the ability to make all my own targets, and I do it with steel at scrap prices that I'm lucky enough to be able to get from my place of employment, and I still am into it a ton of money. At some of the clubs, I don't even know how they're able to pull it off.
I know how we pulled it off.
Yeah.
We begged.
Yeah.
We went out and we begged. Like no bullshit. Like we went out and begged. We were like, "Hey, will you sponsor this for the first go around and whatever?" And we got really lucky though too. Like we ended up having people show up to the matches that were business owners and that kind of fun stuff. We're talking like technology companies, or like they own a shop, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And they would give us money to help. They're like, "Yeah, you guys are dying. Here's money." And then we would immediately be like, "Ooh, what new cool targets can we buy with this bullshit?" You know what I mean? Like it all just went right back in. Like that was the part that a lot of people, I think, especially when they're looking at the starting a club type thing, they're like, how the hell do I do it? What are the steps to go forward to, like, say, starting my own club? And I would say, number one, you got to find somebody that's going to like take you along with you, so you got to find a partner. Meaning I got really lucky that I found Shane, and that he happens to be about half as dumb as I am. So like I could get him talked into doing some shit. He's kind of like a 25-year-old girl. You can get him to do just about anything, but you got to talk him into it.
Jesus Christ.
God damn, Will.
Anyway, but
Devin's 26. I can't talk her into shit. So I don't know what you're talking about.
She's smarter than me. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's a school teacher. She has an education.
But yeah, I think that's number one. Like you got to find somebody that's going to have you back. And then the next thing you got to do is that you just got to lose all humility and go out and beg. You're going to have to beg somebody that has what you don't have, like land, a venue. Be like, "Hey, this is what I want to do." And then you're going to have to go through all the uncomfortable interactions that go with it. Like, how do you set this up first, or how do you set that up? And then you're going to have heated discussions with some people about, what the best way of, making a horseshoe is. And as you go along, those conversations kind of go by the wayside. Once they can actually see that you're up and running and you have that trust, it becomes a whole heck of a lot easier. But the only way to get it going though is to just kind of put the faith into your own self, and then lose your humility and go out and beg.
No, yeah, for sure. I hate to say it, but I approached some well-known match directors for help on like, how are you doing this and how are you doing that? And I didn't receive any help from any of those people. But and I went through months of approaching ranges and just got so tired of being told no. I almost gave up on this whole thing, because I'd been turned on by every range we had talked to, every person we had talked to, and it was a long road to get there. And finally, like, one range was like, "We'll entertain the idea." And that was a little bit of light that I needed, and just kind of ran with it from there. And, they were willing to give an inch, and I took a mile and was like, let's just kind of see what happens here. And luckily it worked out in the long run. But yeah, like I said, you cannot have any humility. You really just have to, it's not an easy road as a match director all the time. But it's worth it. At the end of matches, it's super satisfying being able to see all these people have so much fun at my matches.
That's one big thing that I've kind of, every person I've talked to that I has reached out about starting a club, I've always told, you can talk to me about it, and I'm really willing to help you, and kind of give you some of my insight of what I've gone through. It's kind of funny. I've talked to some guys and they're like, "Oh, you're 28 years old. What do you I've hosted tons of matches," and it's like, well, how many matches have you held? 8 matches. It's like, but I've done like quadruple that in the short amount of time I've been doing this. And, I have a lot of knowledge and experience, and I'm not like saying like, what I say is right and you have to do it as I say, but I've really tried to help some people like understand the things I've had to go through, especially with putting on matches. I mean, my biggest recommendation to anyone would be to make sure you're going to a club that has a good board, because There's been matches or venues that we've held our matches at that have been terrible because of the board, and it becomes an old boys club, and it's just not fun. I think one of the best things that ever happened to us is us swapping to a private range. It has been
100%.
nothing but it's been a
100%.
million times better.
Well, what was funny, and this is what I'd have to go, like, we would literally go to these board meetings and get into fights with these guys on a monthly basis. It was stupid. It was like Operation Tropic Thunder, never go full retard. Well, we were going full retard every month. And anyway, one of the things that always came up that drove me absolutely up the wall was that, like, we have all this experience directing matches, and what you'd find out is that this particular guy would host one match a year for like 4 guys. And we were hosting one match a month for 20 or 30 guys. So
even for the guys who has held the same amount of matches as us, like let's say they did, once a month, whatever. One, it wasn't to the level of how many guys we were having. I still think one of the craziest things is one of the clubs we hosted, used to host matches at. They had like basically this a weekend where they had tons of matches, and they had like at the end they had a breakdown of like, oh, all the people that showed up for all these different matches combined was like 90 someone people. They're like, yeah, we had a lot of people. And then if you actually break it down, it was like 50 was like just from our event. And it was just funny because there was like 12 other events there. So it was just kind of interesting to watch. Like ours was more than half, and then everyone else had like 3 people, 4 people, 4 people, 3 people. And it was just like, there's a lot that goes on to hosting a match when you have more than 3 people. And it became just so hard to deal with someone like that when they think they know all and they're not willing to even listen to your side. I mean, we've had guys argue. It's funny. You look at the NRL and you look at clubs that are in the middle of nowhere, in a cornfield, and they're shooting not a berm in sight. Okay. And then you go to a club where they are like having heated debates and discussions and yelling at each other over basically at us because we want to shoot on a range where we're not going to have a berm behind every single target when we are literally in a natural berm canyon. Just dumbest arguments. And you're sitting there just like, me and Will will look at each other and just be like, is this really going on right now? Like, and Will, one of the greatest things he told me is like, you almost have to let them like argue their own point to wrong. Like, let them argue with each other until they realize that they're wrong. Like, which it just blows me away. You just have to sit there and let them make themselves an idiot. And you're like, okay, are you done now? Because there's just, any person who's ever trying, if anyone who listens to this who wants to start a club and you're looking at going to a club that, or a range that is ran by a board, it's totally fine. You can do it. Just make sure the board is not a bunch of idiots, because you will find a lot of clubs are ran by morons. I'm sorry to say it, but it is very true.
Well, because we'll probably get some people that are listening, just so that we understand. It wasn't necessarily the board. We weren't actually having the fight with the board per se. It was other individuals.
1 or 2 people. Yeah.
That were...
The board itself wasn't bad.
No, the board itself was actually pretty helpful a lot of the time. Anyway, it can get to be a lot, but if you're looking at this and you're looking to get into it and you're looking to be a match director, the important thing that I think that you should remember is that if you talk to a guy that's been hosting NRL matches for a year, that man has stories and he has information that you need. If you talk to somebody that's been doing this for any given period of time, say longer than 6 months, they can tell you what's going to work and what's not going to work. And take that advice to heart. I mean, we got kind of lucky with Tom Batrick up in Lewistown. We were able to go and shoot one of his matches just to kind of see. And then we had our first match, which was a train wreck. And then after that, we were able to start picking up speed pretty fast. And don't be afraid of the train wreck. Your first match, I promise you, will be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it usually is. Your first match usually is. And that's the cool thing about Tom, too. Like, Tom got all of us started on this. But Tom's also the guy who's not, like, scared to change things up and improve on his own matches. He's not stuck in a way of like, well, the way I've been, because Tom's been doing this for years. I mean, he's the OG when it comes to Montana for 22 rimfire stuff. I mean, I want to say he's been doing it for over 3-4+ years. I mean, even longer, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, the best part about Tom is, like he, once we started to do things and started to improve on certain things, he's like, oh, that's actually a good idea. And then he starts doing certain things. And it's cool to see the community grow instead of having certain people just be like, well, that's not how I do it. I'm not going to do it that way. And, like just be hateful on other people. And yeah, if you're a match director and you're looking to start, honestly, look at the NRL. I don't know if it's by the NRL, but it's by Justin Carbone and Ruth. I can never say her last name wrong. If she listens to this, she's going to hate me. I think it's like Sois or Sos. I can't ever say it. But they made a match director's handbook, and it is phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. It explains everything you need to know about putting on a match, Justin's a very analytical person, and he breaks down of like how many shooters you have in a match, how fast it has to go to be like he breaks everything down. I mean, target sizes to distances. If you really want to do a really good read on the match director's handbook, Justin and Ruth put a phenomenal match.
I would have killed to have that in my hands before I started, and it came out 3 months after I started putting on matches.
It's so good. I read it. Yeah, I actually told them they did a night match. Actually, I'm going to be shooting that here next month. They do an NRL X night match every year. Or actually, this will be the second year they're doing it. But I told him he's got to include that in there because I want to put on a night match. I need to know from his wisdom of how they did a night match because their night match last year was a blast. And I'm dragging Devin out there here at the end of October to go shoot that. It's such a blast. It is such a fun match. So they do it on Halloween. Or Halloween weekend. It's a blast. But
that has to be.
I can remember saying that when we first.
Well, what? Sorry, you guys all talked over each other there.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say when I remember I made the first phone call to NRL, and it wasn't a phone call, it was an email, and then I waited, and then I sent them another email, and then I just started emailing them all the time until I finally got somebody on the phone, and they're like, well, I think there's some guy out in Montana, there's somebody named Kyle, and there's somebody named Tom, and I was able to get Kyle Gibson on the phone, and that was basically the only person that could give me any advice, and his advice was just go shoot one of Tom's matches and then go from there.
Yeah.
I think that the nice thing about the Pro Series is that now we have a whole lot of people that you can reach out to. Like honestly, if you're ready to start and you're wanting to do it and you're thinking about it, all of our phone numbers are real easy to find.
Yeah, I mean, on the website, you can reach out to my email, shane@pro406.com, and I can get you in contact with pretty much anyone that, is almost every match director is willing to help and give advice. And, if you need to hop into a call or, chat with someone, I mean, we're all pretty much more than happy to help you guys. I mean, I guess Wyatt, you guys really already had started, so you really didn't need any help getting going. But yeah, if you're like a new club joining, I mean, don't be afraid to reach out. Especially if you're in even if you're not part of the Pro Series and you're a new club that's, I don't know, in Georgia, and you're listening to this and you have a question, just shoot us an email. I'm more than happy to help you guys, and give you some pointers on what we did and how we run our matches and yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I think Wyatt, you said the same thing that's kind of happened to you guys, is from the first match you had to the match now. Speed, the time duration. I remember our first matches were like 5 stages, and they were all day. And now it's like 6, 8 stages, and they're done in like 3 hours. You're like, perfect. Let's get out of here. Like again, I want to be shooting, but I don't want to be spending all day.
Yeah, we literally started
we
out.
We used to be there all day.
Yeah, 5 stages. We go 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And now we did 8 stages today from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Yeah, we're drinking beer by 2 o'clock.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, exactly. If beers aren't cracked by like 2 o'clock, then it's not a good day. We've messed up. So, well, anything else you guys want to say before we end this? We've gone for an hour and 30. I know a lot of guys actually emailed and reached out last time saying they wanted a longer podcast. I usually try to keep them an hour. So this one has been over an hour and 30. So I mean, we can keep going, but it's up to you guys if anything else you guys want to say. Most of the Badlands Brawl stuff will be brought up in the next podcast, so I don't really want to say too much on everything with the
What
Badlands
are some of
Brawl.
the
But
other big
anything else you
matches
guys
you
want to talk
guys
about?
are planning on hitting this year?
Well, Will has twins, so Will doesn't really travel anywhere besides 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to be hitting the Minnesota or MPS, Minnesota Precision Shooters. I always get their thing wrong. Their Halloween NRLX match here at the end of October. I still need to make it out to one of your guys' match in Idaho, but that's starting to look like it's going to be after the winter, just because of the fact that going up through the pass is not
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
in the
Don't
winter
come
time.
here in winter.
Uh, Yeah, yeah. Don't come here in winter. The whole pass in between us just sucks, especially nope. But yeah, I mean, I just got back from a match in Utah. I try to hit a lot of NRLX matches. Even though I'm not an NRL club here in Billings, I'm still a big supporter of the NRL and NRLX stuff. So I compete in the NRL X series and I travel all over. So yeah, I'll be in Minnesota. We just did Heat Elevated in Utah. I just went to the Badlands Brawl by Wayne Brown. That was a really good match. Wayne and Darcy put on a really good match. I'll be going to what else? Newcastle, Wyoming, probably in November. There's not a lot of information posted about that match yet, but that's a close match for us.
What's going on in Newcastle? Is that an
They're
actual?
doing an NRLX match this year. Yep.
Really?
But it's
Yeah,
in
'cause
November.
Newcastle is actually a neat venue. If you guys don't know where Newcastle is, it's basically Wyoming's Badlands. If you guys
Yep.
have ever been to the Badlands in South Dakota and seen how pretty it is, Newcastle is right there, and it's pretty cool. And that like most people don't know like all the cool stuff that you can do while you're there, like Devil's Tower is right there, and a bunch of other really cool stuff. So I'm kind of excited to hear that that's going to be a venue.
There's actually 2 there this year. There's one in November, and apparently there's one in March, which is pretty cool. They're doing 2. So I'll be hitting those up. But then for the winter time, it's kind of going to be not much. Grand Junction, Colorado, they move or their match. I'll probably go to that one, but again, I don't know when it is going to be. I unfortunately am not going to go to the Polar Vortex this year. I went to it last year. It's too damn cold. Driving across North Dakota in February was miserable, and we got stuck in a nasty snowstorm coming back from that match. So I probably won't hit that this year unless weather is phenomenal. And then I'll be hitting probably the Hennifer Utah match, the Price Utah match, Newcastle Wyoming match, Spanish Fork Utah match, and then I'll be hitting probably the last one of the year will be Ruth and Justin are putting on a match in May 20th in New York Mills, Minnesota. That's going to be either take place or it's going to replace their normal summer match. They're going to do it in May now every year, so they won't be doing the one next year in July like they normally, or June and July like they normally do. So they'll actually have 3 matches this year put on by then. But so I'll probably hit that one, and then we'll see how I stand if I'm going to North Carolina or not. I'm really thinking about going to North Carolina for the NRLX finale this year. I'll probably fly, but I don't know. What about you guys, Wyatt, Larry?
Well, so we were talking about as of today, I've shot 7 matches in 7 weeks, so I'm ready to slow down a little bit.
You hit what I was doing in from February to June. I shot a match every single weekend.
Yeah, I took one weekend off, but I shot 2 in 1 weekend at your facility, so
Yeah.
that kind of made up.
You're getting a little burnt out, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not really burned out. I'm still loving it, but I think I might try to make it to Custer next weekend if I can con one of my guys into going with me for that X match up there. And then I don't know if you've heard of the Lead Farm in Posner, Washington, but the Munn brothers run that, and they put on a ridiculous match. So I'm probably going to try to make that over there.
Where's that?
It's like
That's not NRLX though.
no, they're just a PRS. And
PRS, yeah.
but they have some crazy stuff, like they have a floating boat you shoot from and all kinds of wild stuff.
Yeah, that Lewistown has a floating platform that's really cool, and I mean, I really like those stages. Some people think they're a little gimme. I really like them. It's really cool to shoot off them and stuff. I was considering going to that Custer, Washington one until I looked up how far it is and the fact that it's basically Canada.
Yeah, you're
And
8 hours from me, and it's another 6 hours the other direction.
yeah, that's just
That's
a
crazy.
poke. Yeah, I
Um,
was thinking about maybe going down to Callaway, Nebraska for the Plinking in the Pasture match. That looks kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna slow down. I mean, I know I just listed off a lot of matches, but that's over the next year. I think I'm gonna slow down. I've hit a lot of matches this last year, and I just don't have time to focus on the Pro Series, and I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done on the website and the back end, and I just don't have the manpower, don't have the time to do these things, especially when I'm shooting every single weekend. So I'll probably start slowing down. Like I was sick this last weekend, I didn't get to go to Lewistown like I normally do and shoot their monthly match. I might go to Sheridan coming up as a local match, part of the Pro Series. But besides our match next weekend, I probably will kind of take it easy until the end of October.
Yeah, we also
anybody
a
going to
lot
do
of other.
anything non precision rimfire
I
type
was
stuff?
actually just gonna say, yeah, we do a lot of other disciplines. So in the winter, a lot of us shoot USPSA. We all shoot trap. Winter is actually when a lot of the precision stuff or non-precision stuff picks up in Idaho, because all summer everyone's super busy, and then all winter you kind of have nothing to do but ice fish and shoot trap and in whatever else you can do indoors. So
Nice.
Bunch of
So you guys do
pansies.
quite
You
a bit
get out
of
in the cold
USPSA.
and shoot.
Let me ask you a little bit about that, Wyatt. So you do a lot of USPSA, right?
I don't, but some of my guys do. I think I'm going to get more into it this year.
Okay. Have you ever done anything with because they do a little bit of the 3-gun type stuff, if I remember correctly, right?
USPSA.
Josiah does the 3-gun stuff, or he did when he was living down in California. But since he moved up here, he kind of put it on the back burner. But I have been trying to push a little bit more for some of the guys to shoot the USPSA league in the wintertime. And they do a lot of 3-gun stuff. So that's sort of what we're planning on, which I know kind of coincides with your 2-gun 22 stuff.
Yeah, I was just curious, if you guys had any experience doing it. If you were seeing a lot of pistol caliber carbines being used, that was where I was going to go with that.
There's quite a bit of people up here that are building like 9mm, like Noveskis or P.R.O Precision or AR9 platform. And I know that the USPSA club around here will have random shoots where they will do stages where it's pistol carbine instead of just pulling out like your 2011 or whatever it is that you're shooting. They kind of try to change it up, kind of like what you guys do, where they'll just throw in a random mix of stuff. Like a couple weekends ago, Josiah went and shot one where it was they just told people to bring their polymer guns, and then they try to do shoots where it's just all 2011s, and then they try to have people just bring pistol carbines. So they kind of try to get like a wide variety and a broad mix of different pistols just to have fun with it.
Nice. Yeah. I guess one of the things that, like, why I'm considering doing some of what I'm talking about is that I feel like some of my other skills are being kind of left by the wayside, and I kind of want to find an outlet for people to do that cheaply, which is I'm not getting enough time behind a pistol, and like it shows.
Yeah.
I'm also not doing any work with a carbine, and it shows. You know what I mean?
We went through
Like
the same
it's
thing
really easy to.
where it was like,
Go ahead.
we're shooting shotgun a lot in the wintertime. I think a lot of us feel pretty confident behind that. Not that we do any type of like bird hunting or anything like that, but and then obviously with Wyatt starting NIPR, we're starting to get.
It's NIPR. Thank you very much.
Yes, it is NIPR.
We're starting to get pretty confident, getting our dial and just shooting precision rifle. But I felt like I myself was getting a little lackluster when it comes to shooting a pistol, and I have a bad habit of buying a lot of pistols, so I might as well put them to use. And so Josiah, which is a NIPR shooter, him and his family run a gunsmith business, and they just built or just did a Glock 17 for me so I can shoot USPSA. And it's kind of gotten his bug bit. So he's starting to shoot them again now too. And hopefully we can get some other guys behind it. Because like you were saying, Will, it's just like one of those things where you shoot one thing for a long time and then you feel like you're neglecting all the other disciplines of firearms.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know that this will go anywhere. I honestly don't, but I think it'd be a fun experiment for us to get out of our comfort zone and kind of LARP in our other gear. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
drag out your carbine, get your pistol back out. Let's see if you can use any of that stuff, and see if that goes anywhere as far as fun factor too. Because the only thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that whatever we do is cheap and fun. So I would never start this up with honestly, I wouldn't do it with a 9mm. I wouldn't do it with a 5.56. It just gets too expensive too quick, and it becomes cost prohibitive for the kind of guys that I think would probably get a lot better exercise by using a 22, and then saving those rounds for, when they actually need them. But it's definitely something that I want to see if there's any kind of group groundswell for.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing that you guys are talking about, going from 22 to centerfire, like rimfire to centerfire. I think that if you're trying to build something like that, it's going to make anybody who's shooting it, they're going to realize, hey, I really do like shooting carbine. I like shooting pistol. They're doing it on the cheap end. They can always explore the option of running 3-gun or their other avenues. And it's a good stepping off point, kind of like what we're all doing with 22.
Yeah, it's a good trainer. I mean, that's kind of why I picked up this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the 22 aspect, and I think I'll probably stick with that more than centerfire. But the whole point why I did this was to essentially improve my skills. So now when I get behind a centerfire rifle, most of that stuff carries over, like we've already talked about. I mean, I have a Defiance Action that's been on order since last November, that I'm building right now. It's going to be a full hunting build. It's a 6.5 Creedmoor carbon fiber proof barrel, with a Defiance Action and a Manners long range hunter stock. Basically everything on there I've won besides the action. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole goal of what I'm doing, is to train myself to, be able to use my centerfire better. But I definitely can see what Will's talking about like losing discipline or losing skill when it comes to other disciplines. I mean, I shoot, basically it's equivalent to Steel Challenge every year at the state games with rifle, AR, like 22 rifle, and AR 22, and it's very interesting because I've won it the last 3 years, and then this year I just completely tanked, and it was just pretty interesting to see, because it's I hadn't touched that gun literally probably in a year. So not touching that gun in a full year, and I went out 3 days before and tried to practice, and I was just like, oh, my skills are completely gone with this. Yeah, it is like riding a bike, and you kind of do pick up some of the stuff, but you're refining your skills takes time. So if you don't do it for a while, like just drawing a pistol, I just got my new SIG P322 and just trying to draw this out of a holster. I'm like, oh, I have some bad habits I need to break that I haven't done in such a long time, that I need to just start getting used to it again. So that's why the whole discipline, or the whole thing he's talking about, seems pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind try another discipline as well.
Well, and the thing with that too, and I'm looking for guidance on it as well, is that it seems to me that if you go to a USPSA match or you go to a 3-gun match, you're in a bay, right? And the maximum distance that bay is going to be is maybe 50 yards, maybe. And I think that realistically with a 22 pistol, 50 is going to be pretty much the farthest you're going to be able to shoot anyway. But with a rifle, we've all kind of been pushing that distance way, way farther than anybody ever thought was practical. I mean, we're shooting 22s up to 400 yards now on pretty much.
I think something basis. I think one of the funniest things, I posted a picture or a little thing on Facebook, I think it was, I hit a target 500 and something yards as with a 22, and I was like, not many people can say that. And this random guy I have on Facebook, I don't even really know who he is. I think I went to high school maybe with him, and he's like, "Oh, I can do that." I was like, "Oh, cool. What you do it with?" And he goes, "Well, I haven't done it, but I bet I could." I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, with what?" And he goes, "Oh, like my little lever action 22." And I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah. All right. Good luck with
all
that.
right, yep, yeah. You go hit a foot plate at 500 yards with a 22. Yeah, okay,
Exactly. So I'm kind of looking to bridge
yeah,
that gap there, though, with a carbine. Like, I want to do something where we're pushing the skills. Like, I want to develop the pistol skills again for everybody, and then I want to push the 22s a little farther than what you would typically use them in, like a 3-gun setting. 100 to 200 yards, somewhere in there. 200 being the outside region, but get guys comfortable with the fact that you can make hits on steel at a couple hundred yards, with a 22. And I think that, like, I'm just trying to figure out in my head where that workspace is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. The good thing about me is I'm real easy to talk into new hobbies. So
I feel like talking with you guys have a lot of hobbies. I know Trevor's big into cars and drifting,
we
or at least
all
he
are. Yeah,
thinks he
we're
can
all big
drift.
into cars. We're all
But
fabricators.
but yeah. So no, it's another toy. I'm a techie and I have computers, and then Will drag me into this thing, and now it's another discipline, another thing, and it's cool because I mean, at least with me, I was a big gamer, so you're playing Call of Duty or something like that, and you're trying to get good at it, and it's like, what's a video game ever gonna do, right? Like it's a video game, it's fun, but your skills, what is that ever going to carry over to? And doing this competition stuff, it's like, all right, if I want to go hunt, I could guarantee I could hit something, accurately and well.
Yeah, that's
Or if I need to be in a self defense situation with a pistol, I mean, this stuff actually carries over to real life where a video game doesn't. I mean, I guess maybe I have a driving simulator, so I guess I do drive, so that kind of carries over. But using a controller to shoot someone in Call of Duty, that's like. Yeah, I shot a guy across the map. I did really good. It's like, all right, get a real gun and try doing that. No scope.
we had a stage
360
today that
across
was like
yeah.
we had a stage today that we literally were joking that we're like, this is like a carnival game. It's so fun that it feels like you're playing a game at in a carnival, but it is at the same time teaching you a practical skill.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. How many of you guys, just out of sheer curiosity, are hunters?
All of us. Anyone that shoots at my club is, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the nature of North Idaho, though.
Not me.
So have you guys found these skills? Because I, as a hunter myself, I already know where my opinion lies on this, but do you feel like any of the stuff that you've learned is translated in the field?
100%.
Well, somehow Larry has been able to kill things for the past few years, and we don't know how, because when he started shooting rimfire, he sucked. So
is Larry there anymore? Or is Larry
there?
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure Larry didn't leave, and all of a sudden you guys are like, "Well, fuck this Larry guy. He sucks."
That was a real conversation. That was a real conversation that we had after our first match. Like, all of us kind of looked at each other and were like, "That's the closest we've ever come to simulating a hunting situation." Like, the clock was running, your heart's beating, and you had to make it happen in a short amount of time. And I mean, now, as we get a little more used to it, the heart rate doesn't really go up as much anymore. But when we first started this, that was the closest thing we'd ever done that was able to simulate a hunting situation.
Yeah. So like 2 years ago, I went hunting on my own. Like right at dusk, I had a decent sized doe. But I didn't have quite the experience behind my glass, and I didn't know fuck all about dialing or dope. And so I let it pass. And then I got home and I did a line of sight on Onyx just to see what kind of yardage I was looking at, because I didn't have a rangefinder or any way to know how far away it was. And it was something like 407 yards or 420 yards. At that time, I texted Wyatt and Larry and I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't take that shot because, that's super far. And then, a few weekends ago, we went down to Black Hammer and we were shooting an 8x8 plate at 390 yards with a 22. So the biggest thing for me is just the confidence that I gained behind doping, dialing, and pulling the trigger on something that's at distance and being able to hit a target at first try rather than taking multiple shots. That's probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from it. It's made me feel like I'm more confident of a hunter. I probably still won't shoot anything because I suck at it.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, man. Wyatt, you're a pretty experienced
comical.
hunter, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, hunting the majority of my life. I've never been a super hardcore hunter, but yeah, I mean, we definitely hunt every year and whatnot.
That's Larry's wheelhouse. He's the hunter in our group.
Yeah, I've been.
Well, let me ask you this,
I still
Larry.
think it's absolutely comical. Hold on a second. I still think it's comical that what you just said about the whole, shooting 300-400 yard type of thing with a center fire. I mean, I've witnessed classes where guys are shooting center fire rifles and can't even hit something at 400 yards, and I'm sitting there just like, I could hit that with my 22, and it just blows me away to look at that now. Like, I feel like 400 yards for most people doesn't seem like it's anything, but in 22 metrics, that's a long way, and to see now, like, I confidently can hit a 400-yard target with a 22, and there's guys out there struggling with a centerfire rifle to hit a 400-yard target, and it just shows that practicing and really refining your skills makes a huge difference. So
yeah, absolutely.
But
Larry,
we have hit.
Ask you this real quick. As far as when you set up in the field now to take a shot, do you take a lot of that knowledge and experience that you have from, say, building a position on the stage to that environment?
Definitely. So before, I was always super confident in my shooting abilities, and like anyone in North Idaho, I thought I was just super great at shooting. And what this last 7-8 months, I realized that I had so much to learn, and it definitely, like every single stage that we shoot every single weekend, I can compare that to a hunting scenario at some point in my life. And like the amount of trigger time that I've had shooting a 22, there's no way like I could afford to shoot that many rounds downrange on a full caliber rifle. And it's every stage we're shooting, it's 100% a hunting situation that I can see myself in, and it has helped me tremendously.
Yeah, that's about where I was going to fall with that too. I think Shane's ready to wrap it up, but thank you guys.
Yeah, we've almost hit 2 hours, so I mean, usually try to keep this a little short. But
got to keep these Montana people their bedtimes real early.
I don't want to turn into a Joe Rogan where it's like a 3-hour long podcast.
Wait, are you gonna say we're about to do LSD and make this a long conversation?
Oh my god! If you want to make this longer, we got to go crack some beers, and at that point, we'll push this to like 3+ hours.
Oh, if you saw my coffee table right now and how many
I saw your guys' webcam for a brief second when you guys joined the call, and I was like, let me just turn the webcam off just in case.
Yeah, we've got a few wounded soldiers laying around here.
That's
well,
awesome.
Thank you guys for coming in here. This is a little different than the other podcast series that I do, the NRL breakdown or NRLX breakdown matches. But yeah, this was really cool to have you guys on. This is more of the Pro Series podcast stuff, and I want to have more match directors and shooters and competitors on from our Pro Series and just talk like this, about just shooting, or just it doesn't have to just be just about the Pro Series. So thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you guys sooner than the championship match, but I better see you all at the championship match next year.
Oh, you'll see us.
So.
And honestly, from our point, we appreciate the crap out of you guys. What you guys have done with the Pro Series and everything, it's exactly what I was looking for. It's exactly what I know a lot of other match directors have been looking for. It's something exactly like what you're doing, and it's a great atmosphere, and from match director to match director, I truly appreciate the amount of work and time you guys have put into this thing, because I know it's not easy, and I know that it's a big commitment sometimes. So I appreciate you guys.
I'll send you that $20 Venmo after this for that compliment. Thanks, Will. Just send me your Venmo. All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark. So thank you guys for coming in here.
Awesome.
Hey, Will.
I'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, buddy.
West Side.
East side.
Jesus Christ. Later, guys.
Later, guys.